What's up, homegirls? ¿Qué onda, morras? Buenos días, tardes, o noches, since I don't know when you're listening to this. I hope your day is going good, or at least better than yesterday. Welcome to Te Crees Muy Muy, the podcast para las homegirls who are healing, growing, and figuring life out, sin plan, con flow. I'm your host, aka your Chicana homegirl from Cali, Stephanie, and as always, muchísimas gracias for pressing play and hanging out with me. And your reminder of the day, morra, el tren no se fue, tú vales oro, no migajas. Agárrate las pestañas y vámonos. Now, let's get into it. What's up, homegirls? Welcome back to episode 18 of the Te Crees Muy Muy podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie. Today, we are talking about guilt. I see on the TikTok page, by the way, follow, it's under Te Crees Muy Muy podcast, that guilt of doing things like boundaries, talking about hard topics, get likes. So I figured it was time to talk about it. Disclaimer, I'm not a mental health professional. If you feel a lot of guilt in your life or you don't know where it's coming from, I think that would be a good place to start to address it and go from there. There's nothing wrong with that. This one's personal, so let me go ahead and get started. Here's the thing about guilt in our culture, that nobody sat us down and was like, here you go, here's the guilt, bye. It just shows up in the silence and the looks and the things that we were never said out loud. And you feel anyways. A lot of us grew up in a Mexican or Latino household where family was everything, and that is beautiful. I love mi cultura. But when family is everything, your own needs, your own path, your own choices start to feel like betrayal, even when nobody is telling you that, you just feel it. Let's talk about the path for a second. There's this script that a lot of us grew up with, and whether we knew it or not, right? Go to school, get a job, get married, have kids, stay close to family, go to church, be a good daughter, in that order, preferably by 30 or antes. And some of us did all that and still don't feel fulfilled in a sense. Some of us didn't do any of it and feel the guilt about that. And some of us are in the middle, somewhere wondering whether either option feels right or not. I'm a late bloomer, I feel like, in a lot of ways. I finished college at 32, a couple months before turning 33. Last class before COVID shut everything down. Shout out to class 2019. I did it online. I didn't do it the traditional way. I looked around and I saw women my age starting their second chapter in career, life, celebrating, traveling, etc. Stuff that I hadn't hit yet, or I wasn't sure if I was ever going to hit. And there were moments where I felt behind, like I missed something, like I was supposed to have my stuff more figured out by now. But here's the thing, and I've talked about this in other episodes. Society gives you your 20s to figure all that stuff out, to make mistakes, to travel, to discover yourself, figure things out financially. Then somewhere, somehow, because you turn 30, that flips. You now should have it all together: career, finances, stability, your love life. Exploring is for the young. Figuring out yourself past 30 is looked upon like weird, or frowned upon, I should say. And in American culture, if you're still living with your parents past a certain age, they think it's weird. In Latino culture, I should say, it is just a little bit more forgiving, but you better not be trying to leave, because why would you go pay some rent somewhere else and not help out your family? Don't go rent that room for $1,000 or get your own apartment, because that money could be spent better helping out your parents pay bills, right? I knew young that I wanted to try and live on my own. I knew at like 13 or 14 that eventually I didn't want to go from my dad's house to my husband's house. I think it's important for a woman to live alone, and till this day I still stand by that, even if it's just 1 month, to know yourself, to figure out what you actually want without someone else's needs always in the room. And ojo, I'm not talking that you are helping out your family 24/7, right? And I would be the first one in my family to do that. And that came with a lot of guilt, because I was leaving, and obviously if I wanted to leave, I should say, my parents would be like, hicimos algo, porque no estás aquí, no estás a gusto, I should say. And it has nothing to do with that, y'all. It's just that sometimes you just want to be alone to experience that independence, right? But somewhere in the back of your mind, you feel alone in that, because maybe your other siblings can't relate, or they didn't do it that way. Can we talk about this for one quick second, because it's heavy? A lot of our parents came here for a better life. They sacrificed things we never fully understand, and most of them never asked us for anything in return. My parents never said retire us. They never said you owed us anything. They never put that on us. They just said study something or else you're going to have to go to work. But that was kind of it. But the guilt was still there because I was never in a position to help them the way I wanted to. And I don't know where that came from if they never said it out loud. I think that came from watching other cultures, from seeing other families do it, from the idea that family over everything means that you actually give back. And when I wasn't able to, or I just wasn't there yet, you feel like you failed because something that was actually never a test, right? I walked away from what looked like a dream job on paper. I was there for about, let's just say 2 weeks, give or take. And someone close to me who understood why I left still kind of hit me with the comment of like, okay, but you left knowing that the family needed help. But nobody told me that, right? And guilt came right away. That's what I mean. It shows up in different ways. The people who love you, and ojo, it's not an attack. I'm just saying it's a reminder of the weight you are already carrying, right? Quedarte somewhere to help out the family sucks. It's a big burden and stuff. Okay, let's talk about Catholic guilt for a second because we cannot do this episode without it. I'm not saying that all Latinos are Catholic, but majority of us did grow up being Catholic, right? And a lot of us left. And even after we left, some of the stuff stayed with us, right? The whole you're going to hell thing for doing certain things or not doing certain things. Then you're not doing enough, right? The shame around certain topics or things you don't talk about. We call ourselves cafeteria Catholics, or some of us like Catholics, because we pick what we want to follow. And when something isn't the way we want it to be, or we're living our life a certain ways, we start to nitpick, right? I left the church young. My parents kept going, but us sisters, we stopped going. I came back to church later, and in all honesty, it was because I got sick at 30. I left around when I was 12 years old. And I'm going to say this like straight out. If I didn't get sick, I don't know if I would have came back to the church, y'all, in all honesty. And coming back brought its own issues like guilt, because I felt like I should be more advanced in my faith. I felt responsible for a faith I've never been properly taught. And here's the thing, that a priest, a deacon, and a nun all told me separately in their own ways, like kind of like malabarajio, each the same but different. On Judgment Day, God is not sitting there in front of you or standing and saying, hey, you didn't do enough rosaries, you didn't go to enough daily masses, etc. Ojo, I'm not saying not to do those things, right? Because those are beneficial. But right now, we're not talking about Catholicism like their do's and don'ts, right? If you go to church out of obligation, you are going to build resentment towards the church and God. And a lot of our parents never really explained that to us. And I had the privilege of talking to a lot of different priests and sit down, because I know some people who practice their faith don't have the option to do that. Our parents passed down the practice without really knowing fully everything, right? And we were left holding faith we didn't fully understand and feeling guilty for not understanding it better. We were and we are poorly catechized, but as an adult, it's also a responsibility to learn if that's what your goal is, right? But the being poorly catechized is not necessarily all our fault. This one is about the guilt of letting go people. In our culture, loyalty is deep. You hold on, you forgive, you show up. Family over everything bleeds into friendships as well. You just don't walk away from people, but what happens when holding on is costing you? And I've talked about this in another episode. I had a long friendship and y'all, and I felt guilty for letting it go, even though I was the one being ignored. Ain't that a bitch? My therapist told me that I would have to do all the work to maintain it, and even then, there was no guarantees it was going to work out. I sat with it. I had to pray over it. I fasted over it. That's how deep it was for me. And I still felt a little bit guilty because in our culture, right, the whole loyalty thing, even when I was the only one in a sense holding on, the guilt was real. But on the other side of it was peace. Behavior is a language, y'all. Repeat after me. Behavior is a language. Shout out to Dr. Deloney. Look for him on Instagram. On YouTube. And when I finally let myself read what the behavior was saying, I was able to make a decision that was for me, not against anyone, but for me. And placing a boundary, whether with a friend, a family member, with anyone, is not betrayal of our culture. It is how you say, I matter too. There is this specific guilt that I don't hear talked about enough, the guilt of wanting to leave something that looks successful from the outside. You build something, you have the job, the relationship, the life that society or culture or your family says that is the goal, and you want something different, and you feel like you're not allowed to say that out loud because people will not understand you. you have what other people want. Why aren't you grateful? And that it's its own trap. Wanting more is not ungrateful. Wanting different is not disrespectful. Wanting to pursue your passion, start something of your own, travel, live on your own is not the American me culture that gets thrown out on us when starting to put ourselves first. We are allowed to want a life that actually fits us. Homegirls, guilt is not proof that you did something wrong. Sometimes it is just proof that you were taught to shrink. Once again, a lot of us are carrying guilt for things that did not harm anyone. We are carrying guilt for living, and that ends here. Once again, you can love your cultura and still put it down sometimes, because let's keep it real. Latinos, we tend to be a little sentidos sometimes. You can honor your parents and still choose your own path. You can be a good daughter, a good sister, a good friend, a good woman, and still say no. Still leave, still want more. The guilt was installed. You don't have to keep running it. I see you. I am here with you, figuring it out. If any of this hits home, share with a morra, a homegirl, your cousin, your sister who needs to hear this. And if you want to keep doing this work, check out El Journal de Mis Life Shits. The link is in my bio. So this was a shorter episode. This is like, I keep saying my bad. This was like the sixth time I recorded this episode, because I was going on a rant, and I really debated on adding the religion portion of it, because look, this isn't really talking about religion in a sense, but it is included because a lot of us were raised in Catholicism, right? And I know some people are going to say, like, dude, if it makes you feel hella guilt, or in the past, or maybe still have a little bit, why don't you just leave? And then I know other people are going to say, they colonized us, esto y que el otro. Two things can be true, but I can't do anything about the colonizing. And some people might say, well, yeah, because you keep practicing, so the colonization, is that how you say it, keeps going, right? I don't have an answer for that, y'all. I really don't. I don't. We've all seen the bad that the Catholic Church has done, right? Todo el abuso, lo del dinero, etc. But y'all, I've also seen the good that the Catholic Church has done. I've met some of the most badass women, selfless people, that really do care about the community, that really do help out the community, right? And I've had the privilege of seeing both, because I know the Catholic Church is not perfect. And the reason it's not perfect, it's because it's full of sinners. Hello, I'm one of the sinners too. I'm not saying that I'm better than you or that I'm worse than you because I'm Catholic, nada que ver. This episode isn't trying to convince you to go back to the Catholicism if you're one of those people that left and never came back, because it is true, like can't talk. It is truth. También hay verdad, because, for example, the whole shame about having sex before you get married. Then eventually these women who grew up in the church, they get married. And now, you think, okay, well, that should go away because ya se casaron. No, y'all. There's married women who still have issues around sexuality because the church taught them que no, que it's bad. Right? And that's really hard to unlearn. Think about it, right? Pero like I said, I'm not here. Catholicism and the religion is going to be another episode, and I'm thinking if I'm able to get a Catholic priest who would be willing to be on, but I don't know yet, because I feel like my podcast is still too newbie. As you can tell, I still kind of like ramble, and my editing sounds choppy as fuck. Y otra cosa, I know you guys are going to be like, dude, you say that you're Catholic, y eres bien hocicona, bien bocona. If the worst you can say about me is that I say too much bad words and that I'm hella annoying with link on bio to buy the journal, I think I'm on a good, path and stuff. I'm not saying that I'm worse or better because I practice my faith, right? Anyways, see, this is why I have a guide. I hope you guys like this episode, because I think that boundaries con el guilt obviously go together, because te sientes muy feo, like even if you have siblings, y'all, and if you're the only one maybe that feels a certain way, or maybe another sibling does feel the same, but they're not going to say anything, because when you put boundaries, whoever you put them like by or whatever, or I don't want to say against, but like with, they feel attacked too, because they feel like they did something wrong. Oh my gosh, no se les puede decir nada, son bien sentidos, because they feel like they're getting corrected, and that you feel guilt because like if you say no to your parents, you're like, fuck. And then also too, like I said on the last episode, I said this question on TikTok that I said that you putting boundaries, what does that have to do with the sacrifices that your parents make? Because I see a lot of people online, they're like, no, you millennials, you guys are so soft, you guys are a bunch of pussies, you guys want to go to therapy for everything. My jefito never said that they loved me and I turned out fine. And you're like, okay, well, you have kids, and why do you tell your kids that you love them then, if that's not necessary? You get me? I feel like as women, we should talk about these topics because it's so important, right? I wonder if first gen men experience this, or what type of pressures they experience, like, differently. Probably ellos que sean más providers in a sense, maybe? No sé. And see you guys, I'm already going to another topic. Anyways, I hope you guys like this episode. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. It's on YouTube, Spotify. Go show IG some love porque pobre página la tengo bien descuidada. Es que you guys, IG is a whole different beast. But yeah, so anyways, I'm rambling. I hope you guys have a good week. I'm out. Bye. Okay, what y'all think of that episode? Les gustó? Not so much? Did it make y'all ponder or just be like, esta morra no sabe nada? I just want y'all to feel seen and understood, not stressed out. Anyways, I'll catch y'all on the next episode. And remember, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. By Henry Ford. Thanks for stopping by. Share, comment, and engage. Don't forget to follow this podcast on Instagram at Te Crees Muy Muy Podcast. Go engage and invite other homegirls. Let's build that community. If you want, feel free to DM me for topics. And with that, I'll catch you next time. Bye.